I never thought it would happen to me. I was strong, independent, and confident. When I read books, I couldn't empathize with the characters that couldn't leave abusive relationships. Why don't they just go? To be honest, I thought I was stronger and better than them. I wasn't. My high school years were a whirlwind of emotions. I got involved with guys who were only using me because they couldn't get the girl they really wanted. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Frankly, I was a mess. Along came Austin. I had known him since 5th grade. We were in theater. He had just gone through a messy breakup and needed a friend as badly as I did. Friendship grew into something more, and we started dating the summer of my 8th grade year. It was blissful in the way that all new relationships are for the first few months. I can look back now and see that we rushed things. The fights started almost immediately. They were little things at first, the sort of thing that an hour of space and some making out fixed. Soon, however, they were big enough to interrupt my school and theater activities. We decided that the theater was to blame, and I quit that night of the Romeo and Juliet cast party. Ironically, I played Juliet. Austin played Romeo. The fights didn't stop. I should point out that they were never physical fights. They were screaming matches mostly. Because I was raised in a household where you had to raise your voice to be heard, I usually walked away from these fights feeling like the bad guy because I had been louder, more aggressive than him. Meanwhile, we met each other's parents, talked about the future. Things were good. At least, that's what we showed the outside world. Behind closed doors, we were a mess. We fought. I lost contact with my old friends. I even began to see hanging out with our friends as an ordeal. We were both convinced that our shared misery was my fault because of my depression. The few times that I considered breaking up, I thought better of it. Our friends preferred him over me, and my parents thought he could do no wrong. No one would believe me if I told them the truth, and I was convinced that no one would help me otherwise. I started referring to myself as broken. Any self-confidence that I had was wrapped up in how he saw me, and I was convinced that he was only with me out of pity and that I should have been grateful. I know when the turning point was. The point where I realized that it wasn't all my fault. I can pinpoint it exactly. It was my junior year. We had just seen a movie, and I found myself constantly pushed to the outside of the group so that Austin can flirt with an ex-girlfriend. I would have written it off to keep from appearing jealous, but Noah, who had been a close friend of mine before I started dating Austin, noticed it and asked if everything was okay. It was about the 100th time that he had asked me that. He had been my best guy friend and was always there for me when I needed to talk before I started dating Austin. I said everything was fine, of course, but Noah confronted Austin in the theater's parking garage. They had a scuffle which I was barely able to stop. On the car ride home, I confronted Austin about it. I don't know why I stood up for myself that day, but we never had a fight so big. At one point, I got out of the car and walked aimlessly off, just knowing that I had to get out. But nothing was fixed that day. He apologized, so I apologized, and he took me home. I really believed that things would get better from that point. Then things hit rock bottom. Austin and I skipped school for 3 days to try to mend things between us, and he spent them trying to passive-aggressively crush me back into the subservient little broken thing I had been before that night at the movies. I did not have any emotional energy left to fight with, which, consequently, meant that I didn't have any emotional energy left to fear calling up my parents and asking them to come get me. Even then, I could not bear to tell them the truth. I'm friends with Noah again, trying not to fall back into old habits and trying to come to terms with these past few years of mistakes. 3 years ago, I would have said I'd just leave a relationship that was not working out, never mind one where I was being emotionally or physically abused. Back then, I was confident in myself and my judgment. No more. You never realized just how thoroughly your world can be turned on its head, how easy it is to find yourself willfully trapped in a position that you swore you would never get taken in by. I never realized it. In a way, this is an affirmation of sorts. It's forcing me to admit the truth, despite the parts of me that would rather just bury it and start over. I'm lucky that the scars will be emotional instead of physical. I'm lucky that I was able to get out. Lucky that I was given a chance to heal. There are so many other people who don't get that chance. This is the sort of thing you expect to see on Lifetime original movies. Not in real life. Not in your life. I never thought it would happen to me.